I'm in the elevator and I hear these big traders in the pit talking like these are the guys who like you just watch them like holy cow, these guys are slinging size. And the one guy, he's like, "Oh yeah, I lost 1 million today. I lost 3 million yesterday,
Mm.
2.5 the day before, and I'm still up on the week."
Hello, wealth builders. You're listening to Wealth Building with Options. Here's your host, Dan Passarelli.
Hey, wealth building family, welcome to episode 37. Before we get started, I want to point out that I made a mistake in last week's episode. I try not to make mistakes. I think I usually don't make mistakes, but it's inevitable. That's one of the things we talked about on a recent episode. You say enough words, and some of them are bound to be wrong. It just kind of happens. But in the last episode, I said that the author, John Coates, who wrote just an excellent book, I said that he attended MIT and that is where he got his graduate degree from or doctorate or something. And that is definitely not right. I don't know where the heck I got that in my head from, but it's not right. Apparently, he got his degrees from the University of Cambridge, where I believe he teaches. So I apologize. And what are you going to do? And if you do me a favor, help grow the Wealth Building with Options community by subscribing to it in your favorite podcast app. And if you're already a listener, you can support the show with a paid subscription. And when you do, you'll get video extra podcast episodes so you can get hands-on video training on things we talk about in the podcast. Subscriber-only posts where I'll drill down on a stock, event, or trading opportunity and share trade ideas. You'll get all my covered call and cash secured put trades that I'm making in my real brokerage account. You'll get access to our monthly online Ask Me Anything webinar, and you'll get our unusual options activity alerts on options income trades and much more. And the best part is, this is an ad-free show, so your paid subscription helps keep this show up and running and bringing you all this great stuff. Visit wealthbuildingpodcast.com to become a paid subscriber and choose your subscription level. There's lots and lots of great stuff there. At Market Taker Mentoring, where I do most of my real coaching when it comes to option trading students, one of the things we do is we offer one-on-one coaching. And when we do that, as soon as someone joins, we have them fill out an onboarding assessment, which is like kind of a questionnaire. And one of the questions on that questionnaire, and by the way, I wrote this questionnaire. I wrote it myself, like, gosh, probably 15 years ago at least. And I just put questions on there that I thought would be helpful for us to understand who it is that we're dealing with as a trader, to be able to get to know them and the risk tolerance and goals and such. And back then, I didn't know anything about behavioral economics or behavioral psychology or anything like that. But one of the questions I put on the application is, do you get more pleasure from making $1,000 or more pain from losing $1,000? Basically, which affects you more? And I don't want to steal the thunder of all the stuff we're talking about on the show here, but just about everybody answers it the same way. And that is that it is more painful to lose $1,000 than how good it feels to make $1,000. And it turns out that that's a very common thing. And it is the result of a study by Danny Kahneman and Amos Tversky all the way back in 1979. So think like heavy metal, The Cure, all this crazy stuff happening around the world in music and all that culture. And this was a really, really pivotal moment for understanding how humans' brains work when it comes to risk, especially risk aversion. And it turns out that that's normal for people, for them to feel the pain of loss twice as much as the pleasure of gain. It's called prospect theory. And there's a lot of things that come out of prospect theory. Loss aversion is part of it. And there's like a whole bunch of stuff that's really based off that. And man, the way I think about it is, even though those guys were, I think they'd be called behavioral psychologists, I think, to me, I mean, I don't know. I don't know the whole history of all this, but to me, that was probably a pretty big like shot heard around the world for behavioral economics. And that, friends, is what we're going to talk about today. To help talk about all this today, I want to bring on someone who has helped hundreds, probably thousands of traders to use the wheel strategy. He's a frequent guest and a good friend to the show. Please welcome John Kmiecik. Hey, John, welcome back to Wealth Building with Options.
Well, thank you, Dan, for having me back as always. And everyone else, thank you for having me as well. I'm glad to share my insights as much as I can.
And this is going to be a great one because I don't know if all of our listeners know this, but John works a ton one-on-one with our student traders. And I mean, he's on the front lines. He's seeing how so many traders think about the market and risk and trading and profits and losses. So he's going to have such great stuff to share. Not to mention, he's really, really great with trader psychology.
Yeah, that is fascinating for me. Just when I get a hold of someone for the first time, honestly, that's the biggest thing I do is break them down mentally and see where they're coming from. And then we put the training into gear right away.
So right before we had you on here, I mentioned about our onboarding assessment for new one-on-one coaching students. And there's a question on there: do losses hurt more than gains feel good, or vice versa? So you get to talk to tons of people who answer that question. Like, what's the breakdown? How many student traders feel that, like loss aversion indicates, that losses hurt more than gains, and how many buck the trend?
Yeah, it's funny because when I look at that question, a lot of people don't answer it. And, as I just said, I love talking to people initially, and that's the question I kind of focus on too. So, and a lot of times I have to press them, and just because I don't think they've really thought of it, but I make them think of it. And I'm like, all right, let's go back to your last trade, for example. And there's no doubt people are more afraid of losses than celebrating the gains. I mean, I know me as a young retail trader, that's what I predominantly focused on. I was just like, I just took that to bed every night that I was struggling, and the losses. I mean, honestly, it was very little satisfaction for me to make some money. It was more, not to be a negative Nelly, but I focused on the negative side. I think most people are hard on themselves because trading is something that makes you fail often. And a lot of these people, as we know, and us included, have been successful. And sometimes this is one of the first things they've ever failed at. So I think they take those losses way harder than they should, and they don't celebrate the profits the way they should as well.
Yeah. And I see how that can really negatively affect how traders trade. But it's kind of interesting. As I'm listening to you talk about this, I was thinking to myself, I just wonder how much benefit it gives also. Like the stereotypical thing, you touch a hot stove once and then you're afraid and you don't touch the hot stove again. I don't know. It's kind of a philosophical type question, I guess, but definitely I've seen it. I've seen the concept of loss aversion negatively impact traders, but I wonder if there's a bright side to it too.
Well, I think it makes them cognizant of risk. And that's something I definitely try to work on with the psychological element. My big kind of shtick is you're a risk manager first. And what I mean is be cognizant of risk, don't be afraid of it. But I think most people coming in are afraid of it. And I think that's the turning point. And it's not an easy turning point to turn around for sure. It wasn't for me as well. But I think if you can turn the thought process around and you know you're going to take losses, but don't dwell on them. Don't think that's a negative thing. And I think that's where I try to focus right away off the start, because that's really what's a major part of being successful in investing and trading, is turning that how you look at that risk aversion and turning it around to, because we know, again, people are going to take losses harder, but if they can just take it that it's in stride and not exactly celebrate the profits, but understand that's just part of it, being a risk manager though too.
Prospect theory, a big part of prospect theory is loss aversion. When you work with one-on-one coaching students, where do you see that loss aversion show up? Is it more like refusing to take small losses when people buy options or debit spreads, or is it rolling losers forever because they just want to get back to even, or where do you see it show up?
It's pretty much across the board. But it's funny, I just had a conversation with a guy today. I talked about was rolling and rolling and rolling. Just as we're recording this, the market has moved lower a couple times and so on and so forth. And I just wanted to make him cognizant of it. But I definitely think it's, again, like stomaching that loss, and I'm bringing in bigger credit, whether it's a cash secured put or a put credit spread. I'm just trying to put it in the back of my mind that I'm still alive here. I think it's just really swallowing your pride in taking that loss is so hard for people, kind of like Fonzie in Happy Days. Remember how he couldn't say, what could he say? I was wrong, right? Or he couldn't come out of his mouth when Fonzie was trying to say that. And I think it's the same thing about people surrendering. And I just want to say, if you look at your P&L, I wish we could start at a round number. I'm like, and you're rolling that down. You're not a risk aversion there. Look at your account. It is actually down right now. Even though you're bringing in bigger credit, your account shows you're down. And I think if people would see that, of course, no one has $10,000, $100,000 account perfectly. But I think if I could magically do that, like Bewitched or something, twinkle my nose, I think it would help them to understand and kind of get over that fear of stomaching that loss for sure.
There's a related point called the disposition effect. And that is where traders have this tendency to hold on to losers and sell winners, even when they have theta working in their favor or whatever. It's such a common thing that, well, I guess that's why they gave it a name. What do you do in one-on-one coaching sessions to try and break that?
Yeah, and trust me, I was guilty of it as well. I mean, my biggest thing was I would not let my winners run for anything. I was up a little bit, and just the thought of seeing that position in negative territory, didn't look at my trading plan, didn't look at the charts, looked at nothing. So to me, I think what's helped myself personally and others is kind of trying to go on the multiple exit point. I kind of try to break them in. I'm like, all right, especially when they're on the taking those small profit side. I'm like, you know what? It absolutely helped me. I say, all right, take a small profit. It makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside. And then to me, it was easier to hold for my first real profit. So maybe I was going for like 50 cents profit and I would take a 10-cent profit there. But mentally, if I took a small profit, it was easier for me and for others that I've worked with to hold on for that real first profit. And eventually you get to a point where you kind of forget about that 10-cent profit and you get the hang of taking risk off the table.
So let me go in this direction now. So we're talking about prospect theory, we're talking about loss aversion, but they are two different things. I mean, prospect theory is the overarching framework and loss aversion is one of the things in there. So just to be clear about it, this idea of prospect theory, there's 4 different points or key ideas to it. One is reference dependence, which is what I want to talk about in a second, but I might as well go through all 4 points first. So reference dependence is when outcomes are judged versus a reference point. as opposed to just the pure outcome, not the final wealth, not what you made or lost or whatever. So we'll revisit that one in a second because I find that one to be a really interesting one. And then there's loss aversion, which we've been talking about, diminishing sensitivity, which means the value curve is concave for gains, like sort of diminishing happiness, but convex for losses, sort of increasing pain. And then probability weighting, where people overweight small probabilities and underweight moderate or high probabilities. Just a thing that the typical human being adheres to all four of these. So let's talk about reference dependence for a second. What have you seen with this? And I mean, even before that, man, I think it's so hard for anybody to get over it. I mean, man, I've been reading up on behavioral economics for a long time. And like, this is a big thing that's so important to me. And I even look at it sometimes still just, okay, I'm doing this role. What was the original price I did this? Oh, so then, okay, I need to get back $2 on this, but you don't have to get back $2. It doesn't matter really. The market's going to do whatever the market's going to do. And you want to trade based on what the market does, not in reference to where your entry price was. Like, how do you see that just kind of warping a trader's decision once positions are put on? Like, is everybody like, I mean, I don't do this all the time. I try not to because I know about it and I overcome it. But I mean, still, it's something that I think is hard to overcome. What are your thoughts?
No, yeah. I mean, knowing it and doing something about it are two different things, right? How many times we feel ourselves like, you know what, shouldn't have another drink, but I'm gonna. And it's the same thing with trading. Obviously, it's all dependent on how you look at it, but I try to block that out because again, it's just natural. If you're expected to get a certain level and you're not there, it is going to be kind of a crestfallen type of moment here and stuff. And again, getting back to, I hate to say it, but the biggest thing that's helped me and helped others is using kind of those multiple exits type of thing. So it's really made a difference. Again, it's all in theory, right? You expected to make this much and you made this much, and it hurts more if you expected to make more. But to me, I always say, would I like to make 75% of my trades? Well, profit on my trades. Well, if you're doing high probability trades, that's fine. But generally, you're not going to be able to do that. So again, to me, I try to kind of cloud that out and use the multiple exit theory, which has helped myself and others too.
So I don't know if I'm going off the reservation with this one or if this is kind of within the framework of how people typically think about it. But when I was putting together these questions, I was thinking about this. So when option traders say they're risk averse, what do you think they're really averse to? Is it losses or variance? I just find that an interesting question. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, it comes down, in my opinion, for the most part, it comes down to losses. I mean, again, no one wants to be labeled as a failure. And I think that's the overwhelming thought process with trading and investing is losing money. I mean, again, for me, using my example in the old days, it would really just ruin my day, especially if it was a Friday, ruin my weekend with the thought of that. And again, being undisciplined and knowing, again, everything I need to know, but can I actually put it into play? And that's the hard part about it, though. But I think it all dwells from having those losses hang over you. Like I said, just working with enough people, just kind of picking their brains consistently. I find that where I have to spend a bulk of my Dr. Phil moments at is trying to straighten that out for sure.
Yeah, I think that's probably right too. I think variance or volatility, maybe variance is a better word here, but I think variance is something that traders have to go through in their career, and they ultimately must get desensitized to it or else trading doesn't work.
I agree.
I remember I had a stint trading soybean futures which never really was my thing. I was just trying it out for maybe 6 weeks or something like that, and promptly moved back to the options pit where I more knew,
Belong.
yeah, where I belong exactly.
Mm.
And it was like a Friday afternoon, and we're in the elevator. I'm in the elevator, and I hear these big traders in the pit talking. Like, these are the guys who, like, you just watch them like, holy cow, these guys are slinging size. And the one guy, he's like, oh yeah, I lost 1 million today. I lost 3 million yesterday,
Mm.
2.5 the day before, and I'm still up on the week.
Ah,
And
yes, yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, like, holy cow. And,
Mm,
he wasn't like popping tums or like
mm,
crying or anything.
mm.
So I guess I think the variance is just something you get desensitized to. And I think losses are part of variance,
Mhm.
but I think you start thinking more in the big picture, net losses. And that's what hurts once you kind of get it. I don't know. That's my thought.
No, it makes sense. But again, it's hard to get over that hump a lot of times, though, too. So, yeah.
And so here's another thing I was thinking about. What about myopic loss aversion? So this idea where, like, I don't know, I have seen this with new traders in one-on-one coaching a lot, but especially new traders where they put on a position and I just put on one position and they're checking their account like every 5 minutes, like, oh, I'm up 2 cents. Oh no, I'm down 3 cents. Oh gosh, what am I gonna do? And they
You're
they
talking to me right now. 25 years ago.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
I said, I always say when I die, I want to see God to show me my highlight reels of my early days of trading. We'll sit there with popcorn and laugh our butts off. That's for sure. So if I make it that far to heaven, so that is being a little presumptuous, but
Good luck. Go to confession.
yeah. Mhm.
So, what do you think? Like, how often should a trader check their P&L and their Greeks, or are there any things that you recommend to sort of avoid this myopia of focusing on that one position? Oh my gosh, what do you do?
Yeah, kind of two things, right? Number one is you don't have to see your account, right? And honestly, that helped me when you exit out and you don't see it, you focus a little bit more on what's in front of you. And then the other thing I think is if you can afford to early on, which is a little bit tougher when you're getting going here, is having more than one position on because, like you said, you stare, you watch it, like, oh my God, I would get up every morning. Oh, the market's gapping up. I got a bearish position. I'm done. I'm done. And it's not like saying you have a lot of positions down. You're like, whatever happens, happens. I'm fine. But there's less focus. But you're no doubt you are like zoomed in, and I was too. I'm like, oh my God, go up, go up. And again, that led to me not letting my winners run and feeling better about those small profits and the risk aversion. I couldn't even think about that. So I think putting more positions on and then just exiting out my account made a huge difference for me and for others. I always say that.
I totally agree. I didn't know you were going to go there. I was going to bring that up also. I tell people that all the time, like, try and keep on more than one position. And if it's your first trade, like, no, don't put on 10 different trades. Like, that's a terrible idea. But once you get it, once you've got a couple trades under your belt, like, keep 2 trades on, and when you can get up to 3, great. You don't have to get crazy after that, but just spread the
The
mental,
wealth.
yeah, the
The mental
mental wealth.
wealth. You're right. Yeah. Yeah.
So, do you have sort of just a technique, or is there something that you typically find yourself saying to students to think more in terms of the portfolio rather than a single trade?
Yeah, it's partly what we just talked about, but it is hard again, just because everyone focuses on trades. Even if they have 3 trades on, it's the end of the world, but you do try to get them to think, like you said, in their portfolio. It's not easy for sure and stuff. And then I try to get them less focused on putting profit targets percentage wise on it front because I think that makes them force trades So I think that's another big thing. Like, all right, I know it's going to be hard for you not to focus on these 2 or 3 trades you have on, but please try not to focus on the percentage of what you made this week and what you lost this week as well then too. So I think that's a big help, telling them that don't put profit targets or loss expectations out there at first, because it will service you no good for sure.
One of the things that took me kind of a long time to realize, like some of these things, my brain sort of wrapped itself around before learning about them a little bit. Like when I learned about them, I'm like, oh yeah, I've kind of come to that conclusion. Yeah, I see why I see where that comes from. But the one thing where when I read about this, I was like, oh, wow, I've been thinking about this wrong forever.
Hmm.
It's this idea of mental accounting, and specifically the idea of house money. Like the simple example, which is probably not a super realistic example, but just, hey, I bought 10 calls for $2 and now it's trading at $4. So I sell half of it and I'm playing with the house's money. Like it's a fallacy. Like it's a terrible way to think about it, but I see how and why people think about it. Like it's very easy to fall into that trap and not even realize it's a trap. Have you come across that a lot? Like how does that distort because I think it really messes up how people manage trades when they think, oh yeah, it's just house money. I don't know. What have you seen?
Yeah, I mean, I hate to say it, but when I have come across that, which is not a ton of times, but certainly more than a few times, I ask them, do they gamble? They like Vegas. And honestly, a lot of times the answer is absolutely yes and stuff. So I think obviously we know there's some similarities, but I think if they go in with that gambler's mentality about, you know what, my chips are on the table, I've already covered what I've lost, I think they bring that to the option trading fund for sure and stuff though. So yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because I haven't thought about that, because I actually haven't had a student in a little while tell me that, but in the past, that's where I've gone. And it's funny though, because I would just laugh to myself. I'm like, all right, 75% chance he's going to say yes and stuff like that when they come in with that mentality. So yeah, for sure, I've seen it on that front, and they're usually big Vegas people. So like the one I'm talking to right now.
I only bet on things that I know I have an edge on. So how about regret aversion and FOMO? So, man, I see people do this all the time. Just skip that smart put sale, cash secured put sale, because what if it gets in the money? What am I going to do? And then they have no problem buying calls in like CoreWeave or something after it has a big run up already.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you maybe touched, I don't want to frame what I think you're going to say, but I think I know what you're going to say. What have you seen with risk aversion, FOMO, and then chasing stuff?
Yeah, I mean, we talked a little bit about this in the past as well, but yeah, it's such a different mentality when it's an option versus you own the shares, right? You own the shares, you don't want the shares to go lower, but you're going to sell the hell out of those covered calls so you're blue in the face and you'll get that money back and then some. But again, everyone just looks at that short put as disaster strikes if the market drops and so on and so forth. But you went in with that mentality. I know you brought it up several times that you could have bought the shares for there and you'd be down less with the cash secured put for sure. But it's just so hard to get that. Honestly, I know the more we talk about this, I know I focus on it, but it is such a mental game. It's unbelievable. I know we're focusing primarily on that today, but everything about trading and investing is really a mental game. And that's just part of it though. I know just the mentality of going in and you just, again, do what you said and let it come through and then manage it, let's say the way you said you would. And I always say, no matter what happens, you should have every twist and turn covered, whether you're trading or investing. And that's so true. Easier said than done. Don't get me wrong, is all we're talking about, where the FOMO comes in and all that as well. But if you have every twist and turn covered, you're going to be a better trader investor for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with just framing it in your own mind,
Hmm.
which is kind of like when I talk to people about one-on-one coaching, for me to see if it's fit for them. And if it is, to help them see why it might be a fit, is I suggest that they sort of envision their future and not just say, oh, I want to learn how to trade better. Oh, okay, great.
Hmm.
Like, why? Like, why do you want to learn how to trade better? Oh, because I want to pay for my kids' college or something. Have that goal to work towards and to really understand and to think about what it takes to get there. And I think, like, on a microcosmic level, trading's kind of the same thing where, okay, well, you might think about selling this cash secured put. Okay, well, what does that get you? Well, it might get me the premium or I might buy the stock. Okay, I know you're going to say, oh, I'd be okay buying the stock because everybody tells themselves that. But what does that look like? What does it look like if you buy the stock and maybe it gaps 5% below your strike price or $10 below your strike price? Does that mean it's a disaster and you're going to cry? Or is that okay because you're going to write calls? Like, visualize it, think it through, and does it make sense? I don't know. I think about it that way. And the FOMO thing can be hard too. I remember there was a guy in one of our mastermind sessions where we bring together like some of our top traders and everybody kind of shares what is working for them. And that was one of the big things that he said was a game changer for him is getting over FOMO. Just, hey, I missed the trade, but there's going to be another one. So I don't really care. That left an impression that really stuck with me.
No, it should. Yeah. And trust me, I see that all the time. And that's why I remind people, you know what? You miss out, there's going to be another opportunity, right? It may not be exactly the same and doesn't mean you're forcing a trade, but there's going to be another opportunity. The market is plentiful of activity and plentiful of opportunities here. You just have to be patient and wait for them. Now, again, it's different if you're missing out if you're scared of taking another loss, or like you mentioned, I don't want to be assigned these shares. All well and good when the stock's trading above your short, put strike, but how are you going to handle it? And I think that's where you need that to happen. I know in class we've been doing the wheel strategy all along here, and for over 2 months we've just been selling cash secured puts on the spiders, and they haven't been assigned one time because the market has continually set all-time highs. And I keep telling people that one of these times it's going to happen, right? It's all fun when we're looking at this, but when it really happens, how are you going to be able to handle it? I mean, we're going to talk about it in class, so on and so forth here, but how I talk about it and how you react to it is going to be the difference, right? You can listen to me, but you really have to listen to yourself and how you're going to go about it. That was like a perfect example of what you're saying, but it's been over 2 months since we've been assigned. We've been assigned a couple other ones, so they got a little taste of it. But the spiders, they've never been assigned in over 2 months, so it's been crazy.
I love that you keep reminding them of that because when it does happen, I mean, success can be one of the biggest problems for people. This trade just kept working out and it didn't now. How could that happen? It worked for 2 months. How could it change?
Yeah, we've all heard those stories. I'll never forget real quick. This one guy struggling, bull call spreads all the time. The market would pull back. Man, he bought back that short call for nothing and the stock rose again. John, this is incredible. Of course, a month later, lost everything, and then some when the market didn't rally back. It's crazy. As we know, you could share a million stories yourself about that, but that one just recently kind of stood out to me.
And that self-talk that is either visualizing or just talking yourself through what it might look like or something, and just the words you use and how you think about it. It's called framing. Since you're kind of the resident master of trader psychology around here, do you ever use that with student traders to change their behavior? Framing like, okay, I'm selling a put, or versus I am agreeing to buy the stock at a discount with the volatility rebates. Like, we're saying the same thing, but I mean, do you ever go down that road?
You have to. I have to, right? I mean, when I'm first teaching them about it, we stick with the basics, right? Don't get into the psychological element, go over the X's and O's, but then you do have to, right? You do have to, because it again, it's a psychological approach. But yeah, discount. Everyone likes a discount, right? Even rich people like a sale price. And that's the way I like to frame it. It's a sale price, right? It may not be the price you exactly wanted, but it's still discounted from where you could have bought it originally from. So it's really important to do that, though. Yeah. So you bring up a strong point, but yeah, I often have to do that. But the other part of that equation is the experience. It's all well and said what you're going to do if that happens, but the one thing that can't be taught is the experience. So you have to go through it yourself and see how you actually handle it. I said I was going to do this. Now, what did I really do? Like a trading plan. Finally took forever to write my trading plan. Took me almost just as long to follow that trading plan. I think it's the same thing with, especially with the cat-skewered puts. How am I going to react to that when it actually does happen and stuff? And again, we can do all the sweet talk we want. It's a discount. You're getting a great deal here, buddy. This and that.
Mm-hmm.
But how are they actually going to handle it? Are they going to revert back to like, crap, I didn't want this to happen? Or, you know what? This is exactly what I wanted to happen. Maybe not exactly, but I still got it at a discount, and I'm going to work this trade because I believe in it. And I believe in myself.
Those words you tell yourself, they're important. And that about wraps it up for this show. But before you go, I don't want you to miss a single episode. So please make sure you're subscribed on your favorite podcast platform, whether that's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or whatever it may be. And if you would be so kind as to leave a comment, we would surely appreciate it. The more comments that are left on our platforms, the higher the service ranks us, and together we can grow the Wealth Building with Options community, and we all benefit. Until next time, invest excellently.
Options involve risk and are not suitable for all investors. Before buying or selling an option, read characteristics and risks of standardized options. A link is provided in the show notes. To learn more about your host, Dan Passarelli, please visit markettaker.com.